Hi everyone, it's Evelyn, and in this week's video we're going to go over the dahlias. I'm going to give you a quick little synopsis of how I hardened them off with some footage from before, and then we're going to get right into the planting and some of the tips and tricks I do for when I plant my pre-started dahlias. And I'm sitting in a chair in the shade. Yeah, the dogs are having fun having a little dog fight on top of me. But anyway, let's get into the video. I'll try and turn you off without making too much of a mess with the dogs on top of me. Yeah, bye. Long before I plant my dahlias outside, I first start them in my seed room from the tubers and sprout them. And then what I do is I grow them up in these 4-inch cubes that are drink containers or milk containers. I snip off all the leaves and fill the container up with soil, but I keep all the leaves off until at least the 6-inch mark, which is where that line is, and that's because that's how much is going to be below grade in the garden. Then as they grow and have a little bit of a stem, I'll snip off the leader point, which, you know, if you look over here, would be this piece right here. I'll link down to how I pinch my dahlias and also how I start them. And by pinching them, as you can see, it sends out 2 shoots instead of 1. And in this case, I've pinched that one already. And I don't know if you can see it, but that's starting to send out 2 shoots there as well. So this will be a nice bushy plant. And that all happens in my seed room. See if you can see the bottom of it. You can see some roots coming out the bottom, not a whole lot. That all happens in my seed room. And then I start hardening them off. Cloudy day, they get 2 hours extra a day. Sunny day, just 1. And once they're all hardened off, then it's time to plant them, which is what we're going to do now. Before I take you up to where I'll be planting all the pre-started dahlias, I want to show you, they're already all up into their designated dahlia beds. I want to show you what's left. So what we have here, this is, in this tote I've got 3 orders for customers. 1 order of 4, another order of 4, and an order of 3. This tote has 5 different dahlias, 2 of each, that will be going up to the roadside flower wagon. I have 2 AC Loomis, 2 Bodacious, 2 La Luna, and 2 Florale. And then here is a table of spares for when I sell them at the roadside stand, because I'll be selling them for a couple of weeks there before the farmer's market opens. So on this particular table I have more AC Loomis, Bodacious, and La Luna. That's all that's on this table. This table here has just a pile of miscellaneous stuff I have. What's this? Oh yeah, this I also have up on, going up on the roadside stand, 2 of them, Addison June, which is not a dinner plate. All the other ones going to the roadside stand are dinner plates. This is a mini ball. And then I have Florale, some really small Kelvin Floodlight, some Wanda Scapella, just miscellaneous ones. These ones, I'm kind of glad that they're not too big because, like I said, the farmer's market doesn't start for a couple of weeks, so I don't want them too large. So that's the leftover dahlias from the ones that I myself am actually planting. Here, I'm just going to show you this quickly because it's right smack dab center in the view of my hose. I've got this little stand for my hose, which I really like for when I'm watering the dahlias. But it's also a hose guide down here. And this obelisk I got at a thrift store for only $9. That was quite the find. Anyway, now I'm going to take you up to the dahlia beds where I'll be planting them and showing you how I do that. See you there in a sec. Okay, I've started getting ready to plant my north row of dahlias up where the sweet peas are. I've laid them all out where they go in a line with the measurements that I like. I've marked them down on my garden map. I've started planting them. As you can see, I've got 2 planted here. I've dug the hole out for the 3rd one. And I use a empty 1 gallon pot as a guide because I want to plant so that the bottom of my containers are 6 inches below grade. So I dig a hole, I get my pot in there, that's 6 inches below grade, that's perfect. I can take my dahlia out of its container, put it into the bottom of the hole that I dug and start filling it in. And then, as you can see, why I like to have them growing a bit is that when you fill it up with soil, they're already above grade. You can see that clearly this stepping stone is above grade, and you can see that it will be above the soil surface now that it's planting time. I shall continue on. So before I get planting in this bed, I just want to show you a little trick that I do. So almost all my dahlias are planted in these 4-inch cube pots. Oh, I'm just going to sit down on the concrete because kneeling on it on my knee is hard. Some of them, the tubers were too long to go into a 4-inch pot. So I put them into a sideways milk jug like that. Now what's important is to decide ahead of time which direction you're going to plant them, and you want to plant them all, come on out, you want to plant them all in the same direction. And the reason for that, if I stand up again, is because if I want to do some digging of stuff, I've got a nice alley in between all of them for the first at least month to do some direct composting. If I had some of these turned this way, I might hit the tuber. The other thing is knowing that I can put support spikes in the center after I've planted without fear of hitting any of the tubers, because none of them are crossing this way. So I have nice clean alleys between each one of these rows. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can show you how I do this one-handed. So this is the one that goes in this spot here, the long one. I've made sure my hole is the right depth. Now I'm gonna get this, hang on, I'm gonna put the camera down for a sec. I'm just gonna get that out of its container. There we go. So I'm gonna knock off the ends so I can see where the tuber actually goes to. If it's okay, it's a two-sided tuber. It goes from here to here. I know I want it to go lengthwise, so I'm just gonna carve out a little longer section at the bottom of here. There, so now the tuber runs this way, and there's no way I'll hit it, but it gets quite a bit closer to the two in this row because of its length. Now after I fill the soil up, I push it down around the tuber because I want the stem to have some sturdiness. Now it's going to be a really hot day today. It's going up to 25 degrees Celsius. So what I'll do on this one is just to reduce a little bit of expiration. I'm just going to pinch off the ends of these top leaves like that. And this one that I already planted, same thing. I'm going to take off just the ends of the long leaves so that they expire a little less water. Now I'm going to get ahead and start planting this one. I'm doing 1/2 of this row while I sit here, and Esri keeps throwing me the ball, which I throw down the driveway, and then I'll swing around and sit on the driveway and do the other half of this row. I can reach in and get 2 at a time. Hi everyone, the dahlias are all planted. It's the next day from planting them. It took 3 days to plant them, although not 8-hour days. I think I put in about 4 hours each day, so a total of 12 hours. And now that they're all in the ground, I'm going to take you with me from dahlia bed to dahlia bed and go over the varieties I planted using my garden plan as a guide, because that's very important. I don't label my dahlias in the ground. Before I plant them, I lay them on the ground in location, and then I write them on my plan, and then I bury them, or not bury them, but you know, plant them. Anyway, so, and I'll put pictures of each one up on the screen so you can see what it is. So let's get on to the tour. I consider the two beds, which I consider actually one, just with a pathway in between them. There, where's my finger? There, you can see the pathway. It's one bed just with a pathway through it. I consider that the first bed. It's also the yellow bed. Now in this first section of the garden bed, I'll put my plan down here. I have a row of 4 Lindsay Michelle. I also did a row of 4 Lindsay Michelle on the other side of the path, just so when you walk through this pathway, you have the same color on both sides. Because it's a bit dramatic, even though it's a yellow dahlia, it has beautiful fuchsia outer rim of petals, as I'll put up on the screen now. It's actually one of the favorite ones for people to buy, whether in a bouquet or just as a single stem. Now, you can tell, since these are getting going already, see the edge of the leaves, the pattern, the way they look? If you look at the next one, it's quite different. So dahlias do not all have the same leaves. Now, the second row here has 4 in it, and then beside it there's 2 rows of 2 for another 8, because I like doing 8, so I have enough to always do bouquets. That's Encore, which is up on the screen now, and it's a lacinated semi-cactus. And the lacinated means it's got a forked tongue kind of petal, and it's really beautiful. I haven't seen another dahlia that looks quite like it. It's got that beautiful sort of golden color and those beautiful lacinated petals, which makes it really, really popular. Now on this end of the bed, I have just 2. Those are a ball dahlia. They're also yellow, and it's golden torch. I have not grown them before, so this will be a new experience for me. I had a yellow ball dahlia last year that I just didn't like. It was called Boom Boom Yellow, but it had a real sideways bloom on it rather than more of an upward facing. I'll try and if I remember, I'll put a picture of that one up as well. Now you'll see what I've got going on here. I've got little holes made, and that's because some of the dahlias are a little bit smaller than the others, and I don't want them to get drowned out when I water. So after I've planted them, because I know I have these pathways here, I've poked a stick in this way to drain any excess water away from the actual dahlia. And if you look underneath this little table, I got a huge columbine growing. It loves growing there. So then, if we move to the other side of the yellow bed, as I mentioned, I have a row of 4 Lindsay Michelles first. Then I have, if I look at my plan, because it's all labeled on here, I have 12 Wanda's Capella, which is my absolutely favorite yellow dinner plate dahlia. These are all dinner plate dahlias, unless otherwise specified. The Wanda's Capella has such a big, absolutely full head of petals, and a really, really beautiful, non-pungent shade of yellow. It's also one of my customers' favorites. So I've got 12 of those. So that's 3 rows of 4. And then when I go to the 5th row, I have, oops, get my shadow off there, 3 Kelvin Floodlight, and then a Papageno in front of it and 2 Papagenos beside it. Whoops, dropped one of my clips from put it in my pocket. 3 Kelvin Floodlights, because that's all that I had. I was actually selling them off last year, tubers, and kept 1 for propagating, and I decided to grow 3 more this year because I'm really wanting to push my La Lunas that I have up for sale. I'll put a picture of the La Luna up. It's really pretty. It's a really pale yellow with a lot of white coming through it, but it just doesn't have a good vase life. It's a much better garden plant. So all my La Lunas, I had more of them last year, are now my yellow for sale, and the 3 Kelvins that were sort of leftover, I had 1 tuber of it left over that I planted for tubers to sell. I'll just plant those and get more of those as my yellow to sell next year. The 3 Papagenos I love. 2 years ago I had 1 of them. Last year I had 2 of them. Now I have 3 of them. It's a slow process on some of them. Some of them just don't produce a lot of tubers. You'll see in the picture that it's a 2-toned as well, and it has almost kind of a beigey orange shade with the yellow. which is quite unique as well. So that's one reason I really like that one. So that's this bed. We have 2 dogs over here sitting in the shade. See, this is why this shade garden running along our driveway is really good, because this section of shade in the driveway is at a large part of the day the only part of our property that's in shade, and that's where the dogs like to sit. So now we're going to move to this first center bed. I've rearranged the tulips and the daffodils that I have for sale so that they're all against the back of the bed so that I could plant in here. And in this bed, I'm going to sit down on the ground while I talk about it. It's a row of 10, 4 rows of 10. On the end here, I've snuck in 5 French Louis Mayers. They are not dinner plates. They only have a 6-inch bloom. And they're really good just to use as a smaller flower in arrangements. On this first row, I have 3 Labyrinths, then 2 Pen's Gift, then 3 Wanda's Aurora. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, and 1 Kenora Wildfire, that's 9. So that's the row of 9 here. Now the Labyrinth is again one of my favorite dinner plate dahlias and one of my customers' favorites as well. I only have 3 of them. I did sell a few pre-sales in the fall, and I really hope I can increase the stock of them next year. I would like to have 8 of them, but they flower like crazy. You can always get more than 1 flower off of each stem at a time, so they're just abundant with their blooms, which makes them really good. So is the Lindsay Michelle that I had on either side of this pathway, really abundant with blooms. So the 2 Pen's Gift, I find them hard to use in bouquets because they're too big. They're dinner plates. They have a 13-inch diameter flower. They're informal decoratives. The Labyrinths were an 11-inch flower, just to give you a bit of a difference. Also informal decors, but with really wavy leaves they were. The Pen's Gift, it's just too big. Now I did start realizing towards the end of last year that if I pick them younger, then the flower size is smaller, but then that kind of defeats the purpose of the dinner plate. But we'll see. I'm on the fence with it. I'm really on the fence with Pen's Gift whether I'm going to grow it again. It looks spectacular in the garden, but it's just got such a giant bloom. That one is really hard to use in bouquets. I mean, 13-inch diameter is massive. Anyway, the Kenora Wildfire one, it's a 10-inch bloom. It's a semi-cactus, grows 4 feet tall. I've had a hard time growing it well because it's only 4 feet tall, and I've always managed to plant it in a place excuse me, where the dahlias around it shaded out. So hopefully this year I will have succeeded in finding a better combination for it. But it's really pretty. You'll see on the picture on the screen. The Wanda's Aurora that are the 3 at the far end of this bed. That's another one of my favorites. They're a lot like Papagino, except that instead of having that sort of tanny orange outside, it's more of a pale orange on the outside. So they make a really interesting pairing because they're very similar and yet different. So the second row in this bed, has got some smaller ones. They are AC Ben. Oh, you can't see that because of the shadow. They are AC Ben, which is one of my favorites, because it's the only orange one that I have, and it's a shade of orange. It's more like a tangerine. I really love it. If you look at it on the screen, it's just stunning. It's a semi-cactus. It has a 10-inch bloom. Grows 4.5 feet tall. Behind it, the third row, is AC Loomis. That also has a 10-inch bloom, semi-cactus, grows 5 feet tall. So what I do is I grow the shortest varieties in the first row, and then I step up in height because we get a lot of evening sun that hits the front of the bed. The way the sun comes around is at noon it's hitting this way from here in, and then it slowly travels this way and never comes from the back of the bed, which is the west side, because the house blocks the early morning sun. but you know, by noon it's in full sun. So the AC Loomis is one of my favorite ones to use in bouquets. It's got a real crimson look with frosted white edges. It's a stunner in bouquets. It's also the first one to start growing, and it grows really fast. You can see here, if I go down to this third row, even though I planted at 6 inches deep, how high that is out of the ground, and it's already been pinched. So the AC Loomis is a good one for early growth, probably because it's a 5-footer. So in the back row, I have one more AC Loomis over there. Then I have one Penn Hill watermelon, which is a lot like Labyrinth, but doesn't have the wavy leaves, but it makes a good substitute for Labyrinth. So I picked up one of those, so that instead of having just 3 Labyrinth, I have the 3 Labyrinth plus 1 Penn Hill, so 4 plants. Still half of what I want of those. I'm trying to aim now for 8 of each. Prior to this year, what I did was I had a lot of different varieties, but last year was also the first year I started doing bouquets, and realized the benefit of having X number per actual type of flower. So my goal is to have 8 varieties of each one of my favorites for bouquets, which is why Penn's Gift might not make it for next year. So after the Penn Hill watermelon, I then have 7 Spartacus, which is my favorite red one. It's just a stunning red one, and it's got 7 of those, not quite 8, almost 8. I'll have 8 next year for sure, and some of those for sale. So that's this bed, and as you can see, because it's so sunny, all the tulips and daffodils. Well, these are the earliest ones to get into bloom, and then the next. I've put them in order of when they started blooming, and they'll still bloom for quite a while inside their pots, which is one nice thing about selling them in pots and not as cut flowers. So you can see I have them up on the road there on the steps on the outside of the wagon. But what you didn't see when I was showing you is I now actually have on this side a little table that has my dahlias for sale, my extra dahlias for sale as well, which I'll also have at the farmer's market. So on this next center bed, put my plan down there so I can read it. Actually put it out of your way so that you can see. On this first row, it's a slightly smaller than that bed, so instead of having 10 across, I only have 8 across. And what I have here is, in the first row, AC Big Johnson, another one of my favorites. It's kind of a cross in color between AC Ben and Encore. It's not yellow, it's not orange, it's kind of in between. It's really cool. Anyway, it's also a 10-inch bloom semi-cactus and grows 4.5 feet tall. What you'll see here is, I'll just show you this. See these buried milk jugs? They're actually bottomless. And inside there, I have no idea if you can see that. You'll only be able to see if you can see that when I'm editing. It's got a really, really small AC Ben in there. So what this is doing is it's allowing those tiny little leaves to still get light without all the soil collapsing in on it. So as it grows, I'll pull the milk jug out a little bit at a time until it breaks surface. But I really wanted to get that 8th one in there. Well, actually, I've got 2 of those in milk jugs. Some of them just don't grow very fast. So anyway, the second row has Park M. It's got a 10-inch flower. It's white and pink. I'm on the fence about it, even though I have 8. It's really good for tubers, which means it would be a really good one for propagating and selling. I have to work on a bouquet recipe that I really like it in. I'm not 100% sure about it yet either. The third row is Keith H. It's not a dinner plate. It's got 5-inch wide diameter blossoms. It's a water lily dahlia and grows 5 feet tall. It's quite beautiful. It works beautiful in bouquets just as little accent flowers. And the back row, I have the first 5 here are Kenora Mac B, another one of my favorite red dahlias, because it's a lacinated cactus, and so it's got a completely different leaf than the red Spartacus over there. So like 2 Spartacus and 2 Spartacus and 2 Kenora Mac B's in a bouquet I never put more than 4 dinner plates in a bouquet. That they're similar in color, but with a different texture, that makes it really, really cool. So it's got, again, the 10-inch. Most of my dinner plates are 10-inch diameter. I like that size, and it grows 5 feet tall. And then at the end, I've put 3 bodacious, beautiful fiery colored dinner plate dahlia with an 11-inch bloom, 4.5-inch height. Again, it was one that had a difficult time with it in bouquets last year. It just didn't seem to last as long until I realized that I'm just going to pick them younger and use them as smaller flowers. And the reason they didn't last as long is they seemed to really, really attract bees, even though they're a full-headed flower. So that, of course, shortens their lifespan by quite a bit. But by picking them young and not using them as dinner plates, but as smaller flowers, that worked well. So I've got 3 of those, just as an experiment. I had lots of tubers, but that's one that I'm selling up at the roadside stand and at the farmer's market. So that's this bed. Then if I swing around to the small bed that's over by the road, this is where I have all my ball dahlias, although on the other side of the dog path to the gate, I have a small one here that is Snow Princess. I just planted, it's a cactus, not fussy about it. But I just needed one single one there, and I had one single of that, so I put that there. On the other side of the bed, I have a Rose Cafe au lait here that I can tie to this pole. Again, it's just the only one of that I have. Other than that, in this bed, 2, 3, I'm 5 across and 3 deep. And what I have in this bed is 5 Petra's Wedding, which is a white ball dahlia. It was by far my favorite ball dahlia to use in bouquets because of that little pop of yellow, of white. And the other balls are all new to me because I loved using the Petra's Wedding so much that I bought a few different ball dahlias this year in light colors to see how well they worked. If nothing else, I'd have a whole bed here just of the Petra's Wedding. So the other ones that I have are 4 Wizard of Oz. Again, don't know anything about it. I have 6 Marble Ball. Yeah, and that's it. That's what's in this bed. So we'll see how they do. But again, I don't have any information on those because I don't know anything about them. Now on the north bed here, what I have is my purple dahlias, and starting on the east side and working my way west, I have 5 Addison June. Let's see if I can do this without my shadow in the way. 5 Addison June. That's a mini ball. It's a really, really dark purple. On the fence about whether I want to grow more of those or not. I had 8. Actually, I had more than 8. I probably had about 10. So I split the difference. I've got 5 in the garden and I'm selling the other 5 while I decide this year whether that's one that I want to keep or not. Then I have, and when I say mini ball dahlias start with a 4-inch diameter. So if it's got less than a 4-inch diameter, then it's considered a mini ball, and Addison June has a 3-inch diameter. Purple Wave, love, love, love Purple Wave. You can see it's also got the really beautiful purple foliage. So I've got 5 of those. I only had 1 last year, but I got 5 plants out of that one. Just stunning flower, not a dinner plate. It's got a 6-inch diameter, purpley crimson flower on it, and it grows 4 feet tall. After Purple Wave, I have 2 tartans, and you can see they start as soon as the flowers turn green again. This is bluebell, which just grows. See, there's a bluebell growing. They just pop up everywhere in the garden, but they're great. They have really good shelf life, so I like using them in bouquets. So that's the first tartan there. You can see I've got some pots of things on these steps here. Chives and the ones that you can see, and baby boomer daffodil that has not come up. I don't know if it's a late bloomer or what, but I mean, this one's just starting to break the surface there, so it might be a really much later daffodil, which would be kind of cool. Anyway, so here I have the 2 tartans, like I said. The white and the purple people love, and yet when they're in bouquets, those bouquets don't sell, even though everybody just goes goo goo gaga over the flower. But it does make a nice single stem, and I can sell those tubers easily. So then I have 2 Thomas Edison, which is a very purple dinner plate dahlia. Oh, I forgot to say, the tartan has an 8-inch diameter flower and grows 3 feet tall. Thomas Edison has a 10-inch diameter flower and grows 4 feet tall. And it's a real purple. On the fence with it as well, because I find that shade of purple really hard to work in bouquets. So it may exist in my garden next year, it may not, as I become more and more specific about what I want to grow. And then I have 10 Edinburghs, which travel the rest of the distance, but also go behind the tartan and the Thomas Edison. Love the Edinburghs. They're a purple flower as well, but they're not a dinner plate, so they don't have such a giant splash of the purple. They're only got a 5-inch diameter blossom, and they grow 4 feet tall. So we'll see. We'll see how the purples do. I eliminated white dinner plate dahlias this year. I'm selling all of those tubers. We'll see where I am on the purples next year. Not my favorite color in bouquets. Not my customer's favorite color, which of course is why it's not my favorite. It sells. I like it no matter whether I like it or not. So those are all the dinner plate dahlias. And all of these dinner plate dahlias add up to 149. I had more last year because I think I squished them in a little closer together last year. Oh, I know why, because down here on the north bed, I'm actually stopping here, even though there's this much more dirt here, but I found this piece because of our box here. Created too much shade here for the dinner plates. So that's at least another 6 that won't be growing there. And then over here, I had another one beside our landing here, which is also a very shady spot, so I won't be growing one there either. And then over here in the yellow bed, I had another pairing up close here to the little retaining wall, but with the concrete pad here for the driveway gate and the retaining wall, those two are in too much shade as well. So I eliminated a few locations, so I'm not growing quite as many as I did last year. But that's all the dahlias. I'm going to flip you over to the other side now. So you've seen all the dahlias now. I'm actually going to just walk over here and sit in the shade because it's still morning. Here we go. You've seen where all the dahlias are planted. Next week what I'm going to do is a tour of the cut flower beds in the back and along the side of the house. And at the same time probably do a quick tour of the dahlias just to show you if there's been any changes on that. I really hope you liked this video. I'm pretty excited about getting all the dahlias in the garden. If you did like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, just for Esri's sake. And subscribe if you haven't already. And leave a comment, leave any questions about dahlias. I know quite a bit about them, and my hat's falling off. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. See you next week. Bye.